Hey everyone. After trying to record this on my phone and almost calling 911, trying to get my phone into the tripod, I figured this might just be the easiest way for this to go about. But a lot of YouTube might not know that I was in a book, Living with Cerebral Palsy. It's a collaborative book headed by Kyle Scott about the experience of living with CP. And there's 22 people in here, including myself. And I just thought it'd be kind of cool to read my chapter. I am chapter 14, page 107. But my hope is that you will want to read everyone else's chapter once you hear mine. And I apologize if I don't look at the camera a lot. I don't know how to do this, but I think it'd be kind of cool to share the story. So here we go. My chapter is titled A Journey of Hatred to Acceptance. Living with cerebral palsy is like being on a never-ending amusement park ride. There are new twists and turns daily. I never know what the day is going to bring. Will I have enough energy or will my legs be sore? Some days the ride is smooth. Those are the days that I have to make the most of because I can do what I need to and then some. Two things for me have always been true about living with CP. The first is that it is never boring because it manifests differently daily. The second is that accepting my disability is a journey. We should start from the beginning. I was born 8 weeks early, so instead of arriving October 4th, I arrived August 12th, 1994. I was only 4 pounds and needed to spend 6 weeks in the NICU. Once I was released to go home, I was connected to some alarms to alert my parents if I stopped breathing. It's a good thing that they had the alarm because it went off a few times until I grew stronger. It wasn't until I was 9 months old that I was diagnosed with cerebral palsy. Before this, my mom noticed I wasn't hitting the typical milestones at a typical rate. Doctors initially waved her off and would say it would happen and to wait. Once I was diagnosed, my parents hit the ground running to learn everything they could about CP. I had the trifecta of therapy. I was placed in speech, occupational, and physical therapy. I was put into physical therapy at 9 months and would stay there until I was 17. I don't have many memories of speech therapy. I remember distinctly learning how to tie my shoes in occupational therapy. I remember enjoying OT a lot because it seemed more like fun than work. I didn't have the greatest relationship with physical therapy. Looking back at this period, I'm grateful for all the progress. If it wasn't for being pushed by my physical therapist, I would not have been able to transition from a wheelchair to walker to arm crutches. I didn't understand at this time how important all the work was and still is essential for my mobility. It just felt like work, and I didn't want to do it. I remember crying about having to do Supermans. It's exactly what it sounds like. Laying on your stomach and lift my arms and legs in the air as if I was flying. I would have to hold the position for 10 seconds. At one point, the plan was for me to complete 100 of them. It is, to this day, my least favorite exercise. But side note, I've recently been enjoying it a little bit more than usual. I've been doing about 10 or so daily for the last 3.5 weeks, and it is going better. After I was released from physical therapy after high school, I didn't keep up with my exercise routine or stretching. This came back to bite me when my left knee hurt so badly I could hardly walk. I tried to ignore the pain and pretend I was fine, but it came to a point where the problem could no longer be ignored. I finally had to call my doctor, who I hadn't seen in 12 years. And I don't know if that was out of good luck or stubbornness that I didn't need to see them. I was terrified I was going to need surgery. In the past, I needed surgery on my hamstrings and left ankle. So I was preparing myself for a long recovery. The decision was made to explore physical therapy again before taking drastic measures. In my head, I was prepared for a journey in PT that could last for years, but to my humble surprise, it lasted 4 months. Granted, I threw myself into PT head first and gave it 100% for the first time. Age does make a difference in seeing the big picture. There are no shortcuts in living with CP, and there is no quick fix. Speaking of quick fixes, surgery is not one. As a young kid, when I was first introduced to the idea of surgery, after Botox stopped working, I would I thought it would fix me because as a kid I didn't understand the limits of what surgery could do. Yes, it can solve an issue, but I didn't care as much as I should have to put the effort in to sustain the progress. Even while in physical therapy those years growing up, I didn't give everything I could have. A big part of not giving it my all was that I didn't like myself as someone with a disability. As a young child, I enjoyed having people push me around in my wheelchair, but by the time I was using arm crutches, I hated the extra attention. Maybe some of it was imagined, but it always felt as if everyone was staring at me. I felt judged and thought people were only my friends because they felt sorry for me. I can now definitely say that that wasn't true because I was the best man at my best friend's wedding. We've known each other since preschool. I wasn't an easy friend because I was so insecure that we'd stop being friends eventually. Thank you to my friends who have stayed with me as I accepted my disability. I had a major breakthrough when I was finally tired of being angry. I was finally tired of keeping my guard up all the time. It wasn't until my sophomore year of high school when my group of friends expanded to include multiple people with cerebral palsy that I finally started opening up. There were 5 of us total in high school with cerebral palsy. Surprising in a small town. Finding people who are experiencing something similar to you is life-changing. When up to this point, I never felt understood. My parents and brother tried to help and support me, but I was missing something. I was missing having people whom I didn't have to explain myself all the time because they shared an understanding of falling out of nowhere and the weather affecting how well we were moving that day. Those are just a couple examples of finding people who got me and feeling free from the sadness and anger I carried with me. They were the start of letting go. Letting go of all the sadness and anger was like being an onion. I had to peel back the layers and bust down the walls I had built around me. To do that, I had to start being honest with how I felt. I was incredibly terrified of causing problems because I figured this would give them a reason to walk away from me if having CP wasn't a big enough reason. Besides my friend Thomas, who I met in preschool, and I talked about, he was the guy that I was in the wedding with, and Janie in 4th grade, I had drifted away from a few friends. My insecurities were some of the cause because I was so insecure about building friendships that I would push people away. Thankfully, those who were meant to stay with me did. I'm so grateful for developing a group of dedicated people in high school because it helped me continue to grow to turn my group of friends into an extended family, like my friends Haley and Zach. My family watched me discover who Kyle is as I began to see cerebral palsy as one of many parts of who I am. When I looked at myself in the mirror, I could see my CP. I'd see my skinny legs with my braces and my arm crutches and how I walked. This was because my identity felt tied to my disability. As I made friends and became more vulnerable to those around me, I became comfortable with my CP and carved out my identity away from disability. Once this happened, I did a complete 180. I became more outgoing and became an extremely positive person. Breaking through the cage, it allowed me to have hope. Holding on to hope can do wonders in staying positive when it gets difficult. I want more people to discover that we are more than the struggles and difficulties we have. This mission has led me to become a disability advocate. I make YouTube videos documenting my experience with CP. I co-founded a student organization at my alma mater, ISU, Illinois State University, while getting my bachelor's degree to unite people by breaking down stereotypes around disability. I'd given several talks and hosted a radio show, The CP Chronicles with Kyle and Christina. Well, right now we're on a break, but if you really want to go check that out, it's on our Facebook page, The CP Chronicles with Kyle and Christina. I want people to recognize, as I did, people who thrive with disability are people first who also and have so much to bring to the table. We just need a seat. My advocacy has even transferred to a full-time job. I work with individuals with physical and developmental disabilities as a DSP or direct support professional. My job is to support them in working towards any goals that they have, but also help them keep living their best lives. We have a lot of fun along the way. I've been working there for, at the time I wrote this, it was 1 year and 3 months, but we're coming on 2 years in September. And this is outdated, but I became full-time in July of last year. I think having my disability and working full-time for almost has helped me immensely. I believe a bond is shared because I have a deeper understanding of certain aspects than my coworkers. That's no shade to my coworkers. They're all great. I used to see my CP as a weakness, but it has become one of my greatest tools at my job. I hope every day I can show those I work with that just because you live with a disability, it doesn't mean you can't live a full life. Living with cerebral palsy can be a struggle sometimes. And sometimes things won't work out like you want them to, but it has been a surprising journey. At 16, I didn't think I would find a job that would accommodate my needs, but 11 years later, I found my place. At 16, I didn't think I would ever drive a car, but I passed my driver's test 11 years later. You better believe I cried when that happened. If you're wondering, I received my license and a job offer within a month of each other. Believe me, that was really crazy. I didn't expect that to happen at all. At 16, I didn't know it would be possible to move out. At 25, I was able to do it. I still receive a lot of help from my parents daily, but every day is a learning experience. One aspect of my journey with CP is that sometimes it feels like I'm not progressing at all, and then there are moments of so much happening all at once. Cerebral palsy is a roller coaster at times, but I've gotten better about learning to enjoy the ride. That does include the bumps. I also want to use my story to show that just because something doesn't work out initially doesn't mean it's a lost cause. I have learned from my experience that with continued effort and proper support in place and believing in myself, I have been able to smash through my expectations for myself. I will encourage anyone reading this to set their goals and continue to aim higher. One final note on my journey with living and accepting my cerebral palsy that may be one of the most important. Just because I've accepted my disability does not mean I have it all figured out. There are days when I feel like I have no idea what I'm doing, personally and professionally. There are days people see me as there are days I'm insecure about my ability and what I can accomplish. Will people see me as more than a disabled person? Doubt is always there to show itself. When that happens, I try to remind myself that I have met great people, I have a support system, and have overcome more than I ever thought I could, and that the future is mine to create. All I can ask for myself is to give my best. Well, I hope you liked it, and I hope this kind of inspires you to want to pick it up because there are a lot of really good stories in here. There's a police officer, a beauty queen, there's a Britain's Got Talent finalist in here, and so many great people. And I hope you'll want to check it out.
Here's your reminder.